welcome to this explainer. Look, getting that blazing fast internet beamed straight down from space is a total game changer, right? But today, we're going to dive into a pretty crucial and honestly super overlooked side of the story. We're talking about the structural risks of mounting a Starlink dish right to your roof. We're pulling straight from expert roofing insights here to show you exactly what happens when high-tech internet collides with the gritty reality of home construction. Here's our quick roadmap for today. We'll be hitting the roof mounting dilemma, choosing the right mount, the hidden dangers of going DIY, waterproofing like a pro, and finally, why professionals really matter. All right, part 1, the roof mounting dilemma, signal versus structure. So getting Starlink is incredibly exciting, especially if you've been stuck suffering in an internet dead zone. But to get that flawless, high-speed signal, you almost always have to stick the hardware way up on your roof, completely clear of trees and everything else. And, a lot of us stand in the driveway, look up, and think, hey, it's just a matter of driving in a few screws. Quick Saturday project, right? Well, no. Drilling the wrong hole, using the wrong sealant, or just misjudging what's under those tiles can unleash an absolute cascade of expensive problems. Your roof is a highly engineered system. Piercing its armor? That requires way more thought than just picking a spot that looks good. Moving right along to section 2, choosing the right mount, your 3 options. Okay, let's break down your 3 main options here because each one has some distinct perks but also some major caveats. First up is the official pivot mount. This is Starlink's go-to for slanted roofs, and it's perfect for metal sheeting or shingles because it actually adjusts to the pitch of your roof. But the catch? The manufacturer explicitly says no to tile, slate, or clay roofs. The base needs a totally flat bed, or else the screws just fracture the tiles and the weather seal completely fails. Then you've got the ridge mount. This one's fascinating because you don't penetrate the roof at all. It basically sits right on the peak and uses heavy concrete blocks to hold it down. 0 holes, 0 leaks. But you've got visible concrete blocks up there, and in really windy areas, that heavy weight can actually crack your ridge capping or compress the structure underneath. And finally, the wall mount. This is kind of your safe fallback if your roof is super fragile, like an older tile roof. You just drill directly into the brick or timber walls, totally bypassing the whole roof waterproofing drama. The trade-off, though? You lose height. And lower height means a much bigger risk that nearby trees or fences are going to mess with your signal. Section 3. The hidden dangers of DIY, expectation versus reality. Now, a standard Starlink dish really doesn't seem like a threat. It's surprisingly light. It weighs in at just about 5 kilograms. You can easily hold the whole shebang in one hand. So, why on earth is it such a massive risk to a solid roof? Well, it literally all comes down to aerodynamics. This little 5-kilogram dish catches wind exactly like a sail. When a big gust hits it, all that dynamic force transfers straight down into the mount. And if that mount is only screwed into a thin roof sheet instead of a solid structural rafter, it starts to wobble. Day after day, storm after storm, that tiny micro-movement enlarges your screw holes. And we all know, enlarged holes invite water. In extreme weather, that wind sail effect can generate enough force to rip the mount out entirely, taking a massive chunk of your roof right along with it. Now, here's where the chemistry gets kind of fascinating and absolutely crucial. If you do drill, you literally must understand the difference between sealants. A lot of DIYers just grab whatever leftover silicone is sitting in the garage. But if you've got a protected metal roof, like Colorbond, you have to use neutral cure silicone. If you accidentally use an acidic cure sealant, that acid reacts chemically with the steel's protective coating. Not only does that instantly nuke your expensive roof warranty, but it also makes the metal rust from the inside out. You won't even realize you've trashed your roof until years later when rust streaks start bleeding down the side of your house. And check this out, because the journey of a roof leak is incredibly deceptive. Water doesn't just drip straight down like a leaky bathroom faucet. When water gets into an enlarged screw hole or a cracked tile, it acts like a sneaky highway traveler. It runs horizontally along the wooden roof buttons. It tracks quietly behind metal flashings. It can travel meters away from where it actually got in. By the time it finally pools enough to stain your living room ceiling, which by the way could be weeks after the storm, the hidden structural rot and mold inside your ceiling are already a massive problem. At that point, you aren't just patching a tiny hole, you're paying for serious structural repairs. Okay, section 4, waterproofing like a pro the right way. Looking at this comparison, it's super clear that a one-size-fits-all approach is just a recipe for disaster. For metal roofs, the goal is actually to avoid piercing the metal at all if you can help it. Pros use these specialized corrosion-resistant clamps that grip onto the raised ribs of the sheeting. The real trick is applying just enough torque to hold it super firm without crushing that metal rib, and sealing the whole thing with that neutral cure silicone we just talked about. Now, tile roofs? Totally different beast. You should never ever screw directly into a roof tile. The pressure will just crack the clay or concrete right open. Instead, to waterproof it properly, you have to slide a specialized mount entirely under the tile so it anchors securely to the wooden batten underneath. That way, you preserve the entire outer weather shield of the roof. And that brings us to Section 5, Why Professionals Matter, High-Stakes Installation. You know, before a professional installer even thinks about picking up a drill, they run through a serious checklist. They do a structural assessment to find exactly where the rafters and purlins are, making absolutely sure they are anchoring into solid timber, not just flimsy metal. They actually run dynamic wind loading calculations for your specific area, preparing for those sudden, crazy storms. They figure out clean cable routing through vents or wall cavities so your house doesn't look like a messy science project. And most importantly, they guarantee they're using the right materials so your 10, 20, or 30-year roof warranty stays 100% intact. This quote from our source material really hits the nail on the head. Topping into high-speed space internet is amazing, but properly strapping that hardware to your home, it demands a surprisingly deep understanding of structural engineering, weather dynamics, and even chemical sealants. It truly is not just a Saturday afternoon job with a cordless drill. So, I'm going to leave you with this to chew on before you grab a ladder and head up there. Are you absolutely certain your installation method will keep your internet connected and, way more importantly, your roof totally waterproof when the next major storm rolls through? And hey, if it does fail, is your warranty going to cover the damage, or did your choice of silicone just void the whole contract? It's a lot to think about for sure, but protecting your home's first line of defense is always worth it. Thanks for hanging out with me for this explainer, and keep learning.